Hey everyone, welcome
Yeah.
to the Friday night special. We got still people checking in here, so we're going to give them a few minutes to check in, and we're just going to give a brief outline of what's going to happen tonight. So let me get rid of that one screen there. All right, so we're going to be covering several things. We all have some information to talk about and things to do things. Okay, Dave just wants to just hunt for trolls. So
It's safer for me that way. That way I
yeah.
can't get in trouble.
Yeah. So I got several websites I'm going to be pulling information from, and I will post the links in the chat. And hopefully I'll remember to put them all in there for everybody. And that way you can go double check whatever I'm telling you to make sure I'm telling you the truth. Because, hey,
the
you
truth
may,
as we understand it.
yeah, truth as we can find it. But also that way because I'm not going to go into absolutely every detail. And there's something you want to check on, you know where to go to look at it, because there's some really interesting stuff here we have to present. And it's going to, we're not going to be just hammering on the same stuff. We got a lot of stuff to cover, a lot of interesting things to go over. And it's going to be very informative. We'll try not to speak over everybody's heads, because some of the words we'll be using are $20 words, and we'll try to explain what those are. And so right now, I want to go back and do a quick roll call here and see who all is in here. Okay, so I'm in here. My evil twin from DHS is in here. Reed is in here. Grumpy Gaming's in here. The Negotiator's here. Laura Jean is here. Michael 58. Mama Z's Texas Kitchen. C&J's Oregon Homestead. The Bouchards are here. Terry in Circles, Grady Long is here.
Man, I can't type.
Yeah, and of course Dave's on there, and Ryan the Gamer is here. All right.
Got Adams Eden and Dog Patch also shining in.
Justina.
David's Mule Train.
Dave's Mule Train. All right, and get down here at the bottom here. Dog Patch. Yeah, I think we got everybody up. So we're up to speed here now. So everyone,
if we didn't catch your name, just scream, yell something, and wave.
Type it in bold and say, "Hey, I'm here."
Yeah, it's easy to miss stuff when you're looking at two screens.
Well, two. I got three. I got the one that has the YouTube chat on it. I got the one with what everybody's seeing here, plus its chat, and then I got the informational screen to toss stuff up. So, so tonight, hey, there's Tim. Hey, Tim. So tonight is about EMP, electromagnetic pulse, and we're going to try to cover what it is, what it isn't, what it can do, what it can't do, what you can do, and what you can't do. So it's a lot of information here. Hopefully it'll be useful to you. I will say this. The last thing we are going to touch on is going to be nuclear EMP, because there's so much to cover before we get to that little improbability.
That should almost be its own show, man.
Yeah, no. That's why I'm going to do it last. It's going to be an improbability, but if we need to, we can do another show on it in a couple weeks, just on that. And we can all crawl down rabbit holes on that show. All righty. So
many rabbit holes today. I got so covered with dirt. I had to go take a shower before we started.
All righty. All right. So let me put this thing here. And oops, I need to enlarge this. Sorry, I forgot about enlarging it. Dang it.
Hello, big dreams.
All right. So Wikipedia. All right. First place you guys can start. And let me throw that down here. There's the link to what page I'm going at right now. So Wikipedia, electromagnetic pulse. It has some, good information on it. This is one of those ones because it's scientific, they keep an eye on it. So it's also sometimes called a transient electromagnetic disturbance.
Hello, Howie.
Which is short for, and is a short burst of electromagnetic energy. not like a lightning strike at all. It's not electrical energy. It is electromagnetic energy.
Well, technically, a lightning strike does make an EMP if you're real
around
near
it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But its basis is a whole bunch of electrons going from one area to another area and lighting things up. Okay, now it says, a pulse may be natural in occurrence or be man-made. And it can occur as radiated electric or magnetic field or conduct an electric current depending on the source of the electromagnetic pulse.
Mm-hmm. And man-made EMP can be nuclear or non-nuclear.
Exactly. And we got a video covering some of that as we get towards the end here. It's a special video. It's really cool. It blew my socks off the first time I saw it. And that's hard to do since I wear boots that lace up high.
I was going to say something, but I decided to be nice, but you went ahead and went there.
Okay. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of different things here. Talks about it. We're not covering everything. We're going to cover some of the general characteristics here. All right. Electromagnetic pulse is a short burst of electromagnetic energy. It is short. Its short duration means it will be spread over a range of frequencies. Pulses are typically characterized by A, the type of energy, whether it's radiated, electric, magnetic, or conducted. B, the range or spectrums of the frequencies present. And C, the pulse waveform, the shape, duration, and amplitude of the wave.
Yes, Mama Z, we know that.
The last two of these, the frequency spectrum and the pulse wave, are integrated via the Fourier transformation and may be seen as two different types of waves describing the same pulse.
Mouse over there you go. Just mouse over that way they can. There you go.
So there it is. All right, little information there. And there you can see the two waves going over each other. All right. All right. Types of energy on this: electric field, magnetic field, electromagnetic radiation, important to remember later on, and electrical conduction. Now, due to a scientist, Maxwell's equations, a pulse of any one of these electromagnetic energies will always be accompanied by the other forms. But in a typical pulse, one of them will be dominant. In general, only radiation acts over long distances, the others act over short distances. There are a few exceptions, such as a solar magnetic flare.
Yeah, solar EMP is very special.
Yes. And that's probably about, because that's natural and that's what occurs the most. That's what we'll be talking about a lot throughout tonight, but we will, get into others as well.
Yeah, solar one's the one I consider very likely. And that's the one I actually prep for a lot against.
Yeah. So as far as the ranges and stuff, the pulse waves information, see all the scientific crud here. We're gonna let you go on your own. That's why I put the link up there. You guys can go after we're done and look at it and gain all the extra information that we're just gonna kind of skip over here. All right. So that's the first link right there. And it gets down in some other interesting things here, different types and stuff. But we're not going to go into all these right now. The one we will be going into is the coronal mass ejection. And that'll be here in a little bit.
And as a funny side note, next month I will actually have Ben Davison of Suspicious Observers on my channel 1 week.
Oh, neat.
Cool.
I'm already working that out. They would do it this month, but they're expecting baby number 3. So congratulations to them.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations to them. So, and so a coronal mass ejection, CME, is sometimes referred to as a solar EMP. And we'll cover that a little bit more later. So I'm going to move on to the next one here and talk about some of those right now in a different form. Okay, so I'll throw this link here up.
Carrington event.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So there's
hanging wires went poof.
Now, this we got a couple of these to talk about, and these are proof that EMPs have been happening throughout history. Okay, so do either one of you two want to talk about this?
Oh, I'm not sure which direction you want to go to, but I'll jump in where necessary.
All right. Now tell you can read it. You can see everything good there, can't you? Or do I need to enlarge it?
I may not be able to read it that great, but I know most of it.
Okay, I know you know most of it, being an electrical engineer. So
go ahead, read.
Yeah, I mean, it's this first paragraph is really interesting on it. Can you see it, or do you want me to just read the first paragraph and you go into the rest?
Go from it.
Okay. A solar storm of 1859, also known as the Carrington effect, was a powerful geomagnetic storm during solar cycle 10. That's 1855 to 1867. A solar coronal mass ejection (CME) hit the Earth's magnetosphere and induced the largest geomagnetic storm on record, September 1st and 2nd, 1959.
Now, when they say on record, they're actually referring to written history.
Mm-hmm.
They've been digging into the geological record, and they think there are good signs of very large of these in the geological record, but just not written record of human history. Now, the other thing that's really interesting about this is, so this was caused by, it was a sunspot that ended up in a solar flare. And the picture you see on the right of that you see on Gil, those are the sunspots that a guy recorded. They were so big, they were visible from the naked eye from Earth looking at the sun. This huge discoloration was there. And so they're like, oh, that's kind of weird. So this solar observer guy, went and noted it down and then got a telescope out and took a look. And then they discovered a huge solar flare hit. Now, what's interesting is the solar flare, when it goes off, it makes that big bright flash and we see all that stuff go on. That's not the dangerous part. It's all the charged particles coming out of the sun that are traveling their way towards Earth that eventually hit us that are the dangerous part. And the thing is, it actually takes time for them to arrive here. They're not traveling at the speed of light. They typically hit around 48 hours after. They can be faster or slower depending on how fast these particles are moving. And then they impact the Earth's magnetosphere, and you see massive changes in the aurora borealis as all these charged particles interact with us. And you have a couple interesting things happen. In fact, on the Carrington event, the charged particles caused an aurora borealis that was seen down in Cuba. Can you imagine that? Cuba, seeing the aurora borealis. And it was so bright and intense, it woke people up, and they thought it was time to get ready for work.
Okay.
Yeah, the
little thing that they've also discovered, along with CMEs, they also have, and they went back and found it, and I'm going to have Ben touch on it when he comes on my show, microburst from the sun, which is a lot more destructive than a CME. But they've also found evidence of that here on the Earth, and they found it on the moon. Go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so now the associated white light flare was also in the photosphere, was also observed and recorded by British astronomer Richard Carrington and Richard Hodge. Played havoc. It's officially identified as SOL 1859-09-01, in case anybody wants to look that up. Now, it says here, a solar storm of this magnitude occurring today would cause widespread electrical disruptions, blackouts, and damage due to the extended outages of the electrical grid. It says here the solar storm of 2012 was of similar magnitude, but it passed the Earth's orbit without striking the planet, missing us by 9 days.
Yeah, it was real close.
It was
We've had
pretty.
some very close calls. And they tend to happen when the sun starts waking up between the solar cycles
Yeah.
and stuff.
You're a new one.
Yeah, we're getting close. We're getting real close.
Yeah,
So,
we're starting to see more sunspots in the sun.
yeah.
And so further on down here, it talks about the Carrington flare, and talks about the 10-year cycles, sunspots, and all the other fun stuff with it. Now, this one was actually a mass coronal ejection that was traveling directly towards the Earth.
Hello, Sue.
Now, here's the interesting thing on this, guys. It took 17.6 hours to make the 150 million kilometer, 93 million mile journey. Typical CMEs take several days to arrive at Earth, but it's believed that the relative high speed of this one was made possible by a prior CME on August 29th. So that's 3 days earlier, that cleared the way of ambient solar wind plasma for the Carrington event. So basically all the particles out there floating around in space, space is not empty, and all the solar winds blowing stuff, the first one blew a hole through that and cleared the way like a police escort, and the Carrington effect came down there at Mach 7, if you will.
Yeah. Now, and that's quick. Now, actually, though, for reference, like the sun's light itself, so traveling at the speed of light, it's 12 minutes from the sun to the Earth. So you're still not traveling, but you're traveling very quick, but it's not the speed of light quick.
No.
And stuff.
It's fast. It's faster than any spaceship we hope the design is, though.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, like, we have satellites out there right now, SOHO, and I cannot for the life of me remember the current one, but they monitor the sun. They're in orbital position between the Earth and the sun, so they're watching it the whole time. They can see the flare go off. We can see it go off and all that, but the problem is we don't know. They do simulations as soon as it does, like you'll see on Space Weather News and stuff. They put stuff out on the projected things. So we take a guess at how bad it's going to be. But we won't know for certain until those charged particles get to those satellite positions. So we wouldn't really know how bad of a solar storm we got on our hands until probably about an hour until it hits. I mean, the last hour. It's going to be quick coming up there until the satellites can know how bad it's going to be. And that's literally almost no time. So the other thing is, like, the Carrington event, we didn't have any instruments back then to measure it. It's projected to be about an X50. This is guesstimation. They don't know for certain. But, it's very possible we could get an X50, another one, or an X100 come and hit us. And that's real bad. The other thing is they don't just hit and then just dissipate real quick. Solar geomagnetic storms actually last for quite a while because you have all this debris traveling across our magnetosphere. So they can last, like 40 hours. And if you think about that, the Earth is still turning. It's not like the Earth stands still. So the one side that was facing when it starts to impact is going to be the only side facing. No, the Earth keeps turning. And so all that induced current from the magnetosphere, it's an induction that comes and conducts to the stuff on the ground. And the movement of the Earth's magnetic field causes long metal objects to gather lots of electrical energy.
Yeah. And here's the interesting thing. When we're talking about it here, the effects weren't seen on the side towards the sun. They were seen on the side of night. So and I'll have some pictures to show this up here in a little bit here. When the CME particles hit the Earth, it kind of went around it and around both sides. So the electromagnetic field came at us from both sides. It was all over the place. But yeah, it was. What was interesting is that both Carrington and where's the other guy's name here? Balfour Stewart, a Scottish physicist, they detected the geomagnetic storm that hit the Earth, and noticed that it was a magnetic crochet from the ejection, and they started doing all their paperwork, and everything messed up. So they said, oh, this did cause this. So
if you would share that link I just put in private chat.
Okay, let's give me a second here, guys. Bring this up. Space weather news. Okay, so that's that. I don't want that part. I
When
want
you
this
go
part.
there, it'll show you Soho and all the satellites we have looking at the sun.
Okay, so there's the link to the spaceweathernews.com. Yeah, and so this is really cool on this. So let me think. Next one is, okay, before I go on to the one of, let me drop this down here for a second so I can get that ready. Before I'm going to bring up the, before I go to the 2012 storm, I'm going to bring up this one here and get it going here. Okay, so get back in here now. All right, so I got some really cool photos here for you guys. Come on.
Ooh, pictures.
Pictures, pretty pictures. Okay, so this is the sun, obviously, and this is an ejection coming off of it. Down here, you see this little dot here? That's the size of the Earth. If one of those ejections were to make it all the way to the Earth, it would swallow us up and we'd be gone.
Yep. And that's why, you know, when they go off, I mean, they're so huge and, you know,
Powerful.
They are so much larger than the size of the Earth that's why they can hit us, and we have so much to, you know, fly through the storm to get out of it.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one here shows another one. This is what they believe the Carrington one looked like, from, you know, the drawings and stuff they had on it.
You could fly the Enterprise through that one.
You could fly Mars through that one. And so here's the Earth again on another one here. All right, this is a little bit out of proportion, guys.
Yeah, just a tad.
If the Earth was actually the size it was, you see this little dot right here behind the Earth, it would be a little bit smaller than that. But it's enlarged. The Earth side is enlarged, so it shows how the energy from the CME starts to react with our magnetic. I'm losing it here, Reed.
Our magnetosphere.
Oh, yeah. Okay. There. Now, if you notice here, if you look carefully at it, right here where I'm going with my cursor, there's a different coloration. And this different coloration of particles by the magnetosphere and the energy and everything gives us something really neat.
Oh, pretty.
Very pretty. That is your Aurora Borealis.
Yep. Imagine seeing that all the way down in the south of Florida and stuff. Golly.
Yeah.
And so intense, it looks like the sun's coming up over the horizon.
Yeah. And it wasn't just there. It was happening from the South Pole as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it was coming up to Brazil. All right. Now, you know, like Reed was saying, any long strip of metal, when one of these hits, is going to build up a charge. And let's see, do I got the next one here? Yeah.
Lauren, you just live too far north.
So the EMP energy travels in all directions on all conductive surfaces. Doesn't have to be copper, doesn't have to be steel. It can be aluminum, tin, you know, anything that will conduct electricity. Silver.
Yep.
Now, the longer the distance, the greater the energy buildup.
Mm-hmm.
The larger the wire, the greater energy buildup. So our big transmission lines now have big old friggin' wires on them that go miles and hundreds of miles. All right. So we're going to build up a lot there.
Now, so if you also, the other thing is we always talk about people always talk about electrical lines on this. Gas pipelines are susceptible. Railways are susceptible. In fact, when we get geomagnetic storms, the gas lines usually have to be, they do protective measures on them to help shed the energy and stuff.
Yeah. And so it travels in all directions. It can travel both ways on the electrical lines. It can come down to your house, or it can go back to the power generating system. So it's not just a one-way trip. And as it's going both ways, it's forcing, as it goes, that the wave goes along the metal, it creates the electrical current, and it actually pushes the electric current the wrong way.
Okay,
which is
one thing that needs to be mentioned real quick
Mhm.
is we're talking about only one of 3 different types of energy that would come off a CME. Okay, there's 3 different wavelengths that we will experience. This is, I think, if I remember correctly, and read correctly, this is the long wavelength that we're talking about right now. That will
Well, you're talking about the pulses, the E1, E2, and E3.
correct.
Yeah.
Right. This is a solar EMP does not have a fast, a strong enough E1 to destroy small electronics. The E2 is usually a little blip, but the E3, this is the E3 pulse of a solar, and it's very powerful. So, like, keep going, Gil. Then I'll jump in a minute.
All right. So look at all these long miles of wire. Could you imagine the charge being built up on that thing? And just like lightning, it travels along the wire. But here's an interesting one. This is lightning. This is not, but this is lightning bouncing down the railroad tracks. This is ball lightning. Ball lightning is very, very weird stuff. My family's had several instances with it. Myself personally, driving from St. George, Utah to Fredonia, Arizona, it's a 75-mile trip. There is a long, long, long stretch of barbed wire fence there. And we get storms out there, lightning storms out there all the time. We watched ball lightning bouncing, a ball about the size of a basketball, bouncing along down the barbed wire for probably, it came out of sight, and from behind us, past us, doing about 100 miles an hour. We were driving at 65, and we watched it go down and out of sight.
They actually, they still don't know exactly what causes ball lightning. It was long thought to be a myth until they actually caught some videos of it.
Yeah, and some scientists believe the lightning has somehow generated some plasma, and it's holding it all, the energy charge together. But my great grandmother and my dad saw this. Lightning came down the stovepipe. A ball lightning came down the stovepipe, blew the covers off the potbelly stove, popped out, burnt a circle on the floor around my great grandmother, and went back up the stovepipe.
Okay, Gil, I am never staying with you in a storm.
That was back, that was back in Nevada. Okay, so that was, yeah, wow. So, but anyways, yeah. So ball lightning does weird things. That's just lightning. Regular lightning bolts do weird things. Can you imagine what the energy charge from a electromagnetic pulse does? We don't know what it's all going to do.
We have no idea what on the modern world. I mean, yeah. We have the description of what happened in the Carrington event with telegraphs, and it's pretty darn weird. But in the modern world, oh boy, yeah, that's going to be a wild ride.
We in trouble.
Yeah, and this is the type fence that was that the ball lightning went down. We stopped and I went over to it, and the tops of some of the posts were burnt. Not really burnt, just kind of charred a little bit from the heat as it went by.
That's just weird.
Yeah, I mean, that's, and lightning does amazing things to anything that's touching barbed wire fences when it strikes the barbed wire fence.
They've been dead a while.
Yeah, actually, no, that was the next morning. Because when the lightning hits them, they everything, everything heats up and everything stretches and comes apart and does weird things inside of them. But for an EMP, look at all of these little pathways here. These little
Yep.
pathways pick up the charge, and the longer the pathways are, the bigger the charge is. And for a small
Well,
electronics, it doesn't need to be very powerful.
now on this kind of thing, when we're talking about a solar EMP, even though the wires are small, you quickly lose scale. Like the size of a house, you lose the scale quick. The problem is if they're plugged into the electrical grid.
Yeah.
If you have things plugged in, it's going to get burned out.
Yeah.
And
all it really needs to ruin a cell phone or a tablet is for just one diode connection to go.
Now, but if you think about, like, so say if you think about a solar EMP, like we see a solar storm developing and all this stuff, we're watching space weather news, and if we had a repeat of the Carrington event, we'd see like an X flare go off, and then we'd see another one go off, and it's coming towards the Earth. Now, in my mind, what I think what would happen is that, you would have all the scientists and other people saying, oh my gosh, this is really big. We got to like do things to protect the power grid right now. We need to shut off the entire power grid, disconnect lines and everything else so that we can restore power. And the politicians would be like, are you crazy? We can't shut off the power grid. And they'd be arguing all the way until it hits us. Bam. And then, it comes to this, because there'd be argument of like, well, how big is it? Well, we don't know till the end. We're just dealing with it. We're not sure what's going to happen. And they'd be arguing back and forth. Well, you don't really know, but we think, and so then it'd just come in and hit us. And then we'd have a massive disaster on our hands. And the problem is one of the things I hate about the movies and all that, they say EMP, there's this assumption of EMP just happens, everything stops and quits working, and there's no other sign. It's just suddenly things stop working. Wrong. You have this massive, huge, powerful pile of energy. How is that not going to make fires, transformers exploding, lines melting from their towers and detaching? I mean, you're going to have stuff in your house suddenly release the blue magic smoke, and it's going to be hell on earth.
Well, yeah, I can explain exactly what's going to happen in Congress.
They're going to sit around scratching their indecisive asses.
Nope. Scientists are going to walk in. Democrats on one side, Republicans on the other. Republicans are going to say, yes, we need to do this now to protect our, sovereignty and our security. And we're going to have Nancy Pelosi stand up and rip the papers up and say, go to hell.
Yep.
I mean, they wouldn't do anything because, literally to protect it, you would have to cut the power and segment the power grid to start making little tiny segments. But even if you couldn't do that, you'd have to cut the power to protect those high voltage transformers we're talking about. And as we learned when Scott was on us with a while back, talking about we need cranes, I don't know how you're going to get a crane to everyone to move something in time. But that's the big issue. And the scary part when you think about it, so we're talking about this right now and stuff like that. If one of these happens and it's coming at us, we have some time to prepare. There's some stuff to do and things like that. One of the things I would absolutely do if there was a big X10 coming at us, I'm going to disconnect all the power because I have grid power and I'm grid backup. I'm disconnecting the wires to my house. I'm not letting it burn my house down. Not going to, and stuff. And so you're going to have the transformers that feed your house explode and everything like that. When I think of EMP, I think of it as fires everywhere.
Yeah.
Actually, negotiator. So Russia, well, not Russia, the Soviet Union, they did a lot of EMP studies. It was called the K Project. And these currents are so big and so strong, they will happily burn out the fusible link and jump across it. Mm-hmm. Fusible link isn't good enough.
If you want to keep an up-to-date picture of the sun, every morning around 7 a.m., Suspicious Observers here on YouTube, he puts out a video detailing what's going on with the sun every single morning without fail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And if it's going to happen, he'll be the first one to report it. He'll report it before mainstream media. He'll report it before our government. So if you watch his channel, you get an up-to-date notice real fast. I read it, Dustin.
And if you also so you think about the Carrington event where they said multiple storms had happened, right? So the satellites have instrument level. Like if you watch the Suspicious Observers, they do videos of like when some of these things have hit the satellites and all that. And the neutron radiation that comes out of those flares is really high. And so like the videos from the satellites is just filled with static. And so what's interesting is you can see is you could have one come out, so the instruments are so saturated, and another one hits, so they could even get the simulation estimate wrong. They're not even sure how big of one is coming towards us.
Yeah. Interesting, going back to the Carrington effect one in 1859. Telegraph systems all over Europe and North America failed, in some cases giving the telegraph operators electrical shocks. Telegraph pylons threw sparks. However, some telegraph operators could continue to send and receive messages despite having disconnected their units from the power supply, because the power was in the thing and they were just making, doing the shorting out the power signal to make their telegraph. So yeah, so that was going on then. In Australia, a gold miner saw it and talked about it. So yeah, there was a lot of stuff going on there. The next one I'm bringing up here is the storm of, I'm so good, I'm so magnified. It's the storm of 2012. Hey, that was just 8 years ago, guys. All right, this is the one that missed the Earth by 9 days. So, and that has to do, all right, so basically the sun rotates every 25 days. It's whipping around there to rotate 25 days. All right. It's more than 24 times the size of the Earth. So it's cooking. So yeah, so when it threw it out, it just happened to be aiming at a different area, and we just happened to be in a different area in our orbit around it. So that's, if that one had hit us, all the scientific measuring and everything else in here, it would have said it was, all right, this storm in 2012 would have arrived in 14 hours, 14.6 hours, faster than the Carrington storm. So it was really booking.
Mm-hmm.
So as it traveling that much faster is going to generate that much, those particles are going to generate that much more energy when it collides with the Earth's and the magnetosphere. And they said one last little thing here. A 2013 study estimated the economic cost to the United States would have been between 0.6 and 2.6 trillion dollars.
I hate that estimate though. I got a rant on that. It's because it's assuming so you get something like that happen. Okay, exactly what infrastructure? I mean, what other things are we going to rebuild all this with? I mean, literally, everything's electrical powered. Exactly how are we going to bootstrap the repairs, please?
Yeah. And what else is damaged that, every house loses their TV. All right. That's a lot of money there. Every house loses, everyone loses their cell phones. Everyone, that's all that they got to calculate, all that other stuff. And we'll get into it in a minute here. There's a difference between electrical and electronic items. Some electrical items may or may not be damaged. All electronic items, goodbye. But yeah, so it's the guesstimate here I think is low, because there's, and then also the lost economics. People can't go to work, replacing car parts, all the stuff going on and on. Those big transformers, the generators, those things, trying to get them fixed and repaired. I think it would be a lot more with all the people out of work, all the people that died in hospitals without power, all the farm tractors not delivering food. That's, I think they underestimated this a lot, personally. Okay. So I'm going to go to a news thing here. Oops, wait, did I put the storm of 12 in there? The link to it? No, I didn't. Okay, so here's the link for the 2012. And I'm going to this other one here. See, and I'll toss it in there as well.
Yeah.
And this was something put out. I think it's Channel 9, but in Oklahoma. But it talks about what it is, which we've already discussed, and it had some interesting information in here. Let me get down to it. Okay, two types: natural and man-made. Carrington was natural, came from the sun. Where was it? There was something important here I wanted to read to everybody.
Of course, now you're trying to find it, you can't find it.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, here it says, every so often the sun experiences a solar flare, a lot often more than people realize. Flings charged particles in a great violent mass into space. The vast majority, in the vast majority of the time, it is harmless because it misses us. How big is our orbit around the Earth? I mean, around the sun, and it's shooting out either this direction or that direction or this direction. It's got to time it just right to where we're going to be in on the intercept path, and not only on the flat plane, they could be shooting. It's not just 360 degrees one way; it's three-dimensional, 360 degrees every which way, is shooting it out. So
now, actually, sorry, I want to bring up one other thing. So Gil was talking about the one of 2012, and I had to go Google real quick. And believe it or not, there was actually another one in 2003 that was an Earth shot killer if it had hit us.
Well, I got some more too, because there was also one in maybe in this article here. So it's the particles never touch this planet because it's difficult to hit a little pea going around when you're shooting everything in every which direction at once.
Mm-hmm. But it eventually hits.
Yeah. It says on top of that, most solar flares are weak enough that the Earth's magnetic field can divert the energy. Yeah. Unless that's one of the big ones, it's going to take care of it. That's how come the aurora borealis, every time we see it going off, that's particles from the sun hitting it. So, and here it says every 100 or 200 years or so, you get a Carrington level flare that hits the Earth. Now, we've had several that have just missed us, but he's talking about that hit the Earth, and it's been 150 years since we've been hit by one of that size.
Hello, Sonny.
Okay, where was it here? Stay aware. And it talks about different ways you can try to protect stuff a little bit, but and it starts going into the nuclear stuff, and we're not going to talk about that yet. So I'm going to hold that into reserve, and I'm going to blow everybody's minds away with this one. Okay, this link here.
I ain't got much mind left, so be careful.
Gave me a headache.
Oh yes, yeah. This is EMP coupling. So that's how the energy is conducted from the upper atmosphere down to the ground.
And so this gets into the scientific stuff that we've been talking a little bit about. And so those of you that are closet nerds and want to really look at it and get a good handle on it, this is the one for you to look at. Like I said, I started to get a headache as I read this. But yeah, so it's got a lot of information here. It's good. And so, yeah, this is something to look at some night when you got insomnia and you're staying awake and you can't sleep. Read this link.
You go to sleep real quick.
So, but what I missed here, I'm gonna go back to this one here and see what was on this one here. There was one of these here that talked about. Maybe it was the first one here. Switch pulses, non-nuclear magnetic pulses, effects, control, testing, safety. No. Okay. There was somewhere in one of the things I was reading, one of these articles, you may have to Google it separately, 1960.
Oh, are you talking about the blackout of Quebec in '89?
Yes, that one too. That one too. But there was also one in 1960.
Okay, I think that's the New York blackout.
And the one in 1960 caused all sorts of radio interference across the United States. And I remember that one because my sister was.
Yeah, because that had a strong ionization of the upper atmosphere.
Yeah. So that one didn't cause much down surface other than just disrupting all the radio communications. But the one in 1989, so that's one to look up here. Let me grab this real quick here. Or 1989. Does that bring it up? Over Canada. Boom. And where's the Wikipedia on it? The March. There we go. But there are, if you just Google, there are a bunch of other stories on it too. Geomagnetic storm struck the Earth March 13th, caused a 9-hour outage of the Hydro-Quebec's electrical transmission system. Okay, and all right. All right, so here it talks about sizes on March 9th, a few days before. Okay, a few days before on March 6th, a very large X-15 class flare occurred and missed the Earth by 3.5 days.
Yeah, we've had, yeah, like Gil was just saying, we've had experiences with these sort of things impacting us already. It's just people don't realize, what it's caused before. And unfortunately, a lot of times when we talk about EMPs, you usually get thrown into the conspiracy theorists. Oh, that never will happen. That's a crazy talking point. Why are you even mentioning this?
It's information. Now, here's some interesting things about the one in 89. Some of the satellites in polar orbits lost control for several hours. I wonder why. The GOES weather satellite.
Yeah, actually, was that a rhetorical question or not a rhetorical question, Gil?
That was kind of a rhetorical.
Oh, okay.
But we'll get to it in here in a second as I get done with this here. Communications were interrupted, causing weather images to be lost. NASA's TDRS-1 communication satellite recorded over 250 anomalies caused by increased particles flowing into its sensitive electronics. The Space Shuttle Discovery was having its own problems. A sensor on one of its supply tanks of supplying hydrogen to the fuel shell was showing unusually high pressure readings on the 13th. That problem went away after the solar storm subsided. Okay, that was March 13th. On March 9th was when the ejection occurred. So,
yeah, because they have, the stuff in orbit has radiation scrubbers, and we already know charged particles get in there and cause effects. So they have these things go in there and they clean it out. But if you exceed the rate the scrubbers can clean it, problems come out.
Yeah. And it had to wait until all the particles had dissipated and it could clean itself up and everything dissipated out of the space shuttle too. So here's some more scientific gobbledygook over here.
Looks like the wave pattern, the frequency spectrums.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. And so, here's the thing about Quebec. Also tripped circuit breakers on the Hydro-Quebec's power grid, the utility's very long transmission lines, and the fact that most of Quebec sits on a large rock shield prevented the current flowing through the earth, finding the passive resistance, which was along the 735 kilovolt power lines. So those lines just went, yeah. All right. Okay.
Now they weren't. It wasn't strong enough to melt them.
Right.
But Yeah, it was strong enough to overload them, so the breakers tripped and they sagged and things got shorted out.
Yep.
But when we're talking about like if you talk about the big one, yeah, we're talking lines melted and detached.
Did you get a chance to watch that video from National or History Channel?
Oh, the one you were talking about yet last time, SAP? Not yet. It's in my list. I've been murdered at work.
Yeah. Okay. And here's the interesting. This is the first time the military said they had problems. The Australian Army, a component of the UN peacekeeping force, which was deployed to Namibia, South Africa, when the storm occurred. But they had, I guess they had radio communication problems, which was severely impacted. So,
Hello, Homestead.
And the reason why we end up with a lot of radio communication problems is the atmosphere gets very ionized, and it can really crawl down into the lower ranges, and that causes a lot of problems. So short distances you could still communicate over, but the further you go away, because of the curvature of the Earth, the higher the radio's got to travel through the upper regions of the atmosphere and come back across. It means that you're going to have, over long distances, big-time communication issues.
All right. Now, we touched a little bit about the differences between lightning and EMP energy, but I'm going to go to some lightning stuff here on a fellow YouTuber here. Happened to him. This is Kevin of Hidden Heights Farm in Oklahoma. And we talked about lightning traveling along fences and stuff. On his here, let me go ahead and enlarge this to full scale for a moment. They had a lightning strike on their farm back 7 months ago, I think it was. And you can see it appearing near the top here. This burn mark here, where the lightning jumped from the fencing to the building. And he had, let me go back here, find the one spot here. There we go. Between the different fences, the arcing here going up and down here, where it arced from one fence to another with these panels he had set up. And then the burn line across the ground where it followed, where it burnt the and it just burnt around here, where the pipe ended at the wall, but it just jumped across and burnt that. And there were several other things he was showing up here, points where things, all the little spot burns to the roof. He now has holes in the roof there where it arcing and stuff burnt stuff.
Those look like 45 caliber holes.
Now those are bigger than 45 caliber. Those look more like 10 gauge. But there's a hole in the back there. He talks about several of the things around here. But if you guys want to check out his video, let me go over here and drop this back down. As it thing, it also melted across there too. It jumped from this wire here across there. This is Hidden Heights Farm. This was on June 26th. So lightning almost destroyed our farm.
Oh, okay. So, I know.
I hear some noise in the background. Who's that one? Okay. Anyway, so I don't want to show that one quite yet.
Too late. You already did.
Yeah, I know. But I'm going to drop off back over here. That's not the one I wanted. I want that one. Okay, hang on a second here. Did I have something accidentally playing here for that sound?
I hear something talking.
Can you guys hear anything talking in the background?
Oh, it's my wife. She's tried to talk to someone that was calling us.
Okay. All righty. Okay, so let me get this back up here to man-made EMPs. Let's get this going here. All right. We are going to talk just a quick chat about this. And then we got, I'm going to inject it here now, and we're going to go just to show it, and then we'll get out of it here. So man-made EMPs. There are high altitude detonations that react with the ionosphere, where in the atmosphere ionization begins, producing electromagnetic waves. Waves come down and affect us. This is one of the ones you guys can find by Googling. This says 298 miles and gives the location of it. The problem is it doesn't say how big of a blast it is.
Well, it doesn't even have to be that big of one. The ones they're talking about on this, they're a conventional EMP weapon, and so they can actually be a nuclear weapon that is in the kiloton range, but it's optimized to produce gamma rays.
Right. Okay.
And the gamma rays strip off electrons off of the atoms up there, and those electrons spiral down and come down to the Earth's surface, and that's what's causing massive amounts of damage. So, like your cell phone, and this is a fast E1 pulse. That's a very dangerous one. It hits maximum strength in around 2 nanoseconds. So it goes from no problem to maximum power of 50,000 volts per square meter on the surface in 2 nanoseconds. And that is enough energy to melt the small, very fine wires in like a cell phone or other electronic devices. That's why a nuclear weapon can destroy electronic devices and is so dangerous.
Yeah. Here's another one on it showing 3 different types of detonation: 30 miles up, 120, and 300. And these are the ranges. So this is 30 miles up, it goes out 480 miles. At 120 miles up, it goes out 1,000 miles. And at 300 miles up, the damage goes out 1,470 miles. And I notice these bandwidths out here get wider as you're going out as the math falters in trying to determine exactly how far out it's going to go.
Yeah, and the other thing is, as the further you are away, the more the E1 pulse is dissipated. So depending the effects, the further away you are going to be very different.
Yeah,
and stuff.
And here it says intensity depends on weapon design, height of burst, location of burst. And so there's that one. And this is a very simplistic diagram of how to build one. You have your high explosive with your stator wire wrapped around it and some other components. They're not listing what it is. And
I'll have one next week.
It has the, so it starts at one end and detonates down the other end. And from what I was reading, even something like this produces stuff going every which way direction, but the vast majority of it is in the direction of the generation. As you can see the waves down here at the bottom. So as it's coming in, it would detonate from the back of the bomb to the front of the bomb and throw most of the stuff forward, but it does throw stuff off to the side as well.
Now what Gil's showing there is not a nuclear weapon. This is, just so we're clear, it's not a nuclear weapon design.
No.
This is something using conventional high explosives, a charge, and a wire coil. It basically makes a short all the way down, and it causes a very strong EMP. A guy at Los Alamos is the inventor of it.
Yeah.
So I can't remember his name at the moment.
Yeah. So that's the.
And then, so one of the other interesting things, though, Lori asked, she wanted to know if there actually really are nuclear weapons like that. And the answer is yes. The USA, Russia, or what was the Soviet Union at the time, we have very effective EMP designs. Now, Russia, believe it or not, when the Soviet Union collapsed in the 90s, and the U.S. and Russia had a much better reset in relations, we had generals from Russia come over here and talk about things. And one of the things they talked about was the K project, where the Soviet Union at the time, literally said, let's detonate nuclear weapons at higher and higher altitudes over Kazakhstan and see what the heck happens. And they were able to, Russia probably has better EMP knowledge than the U.S. in some of this area because they were more crazy. I mean, by far bigger miles than the U.S. was. And so he actually presented in a talk a lot of data, and they actually talked about a design for a super EMP weapon. The theoretical limit has always been around 50,000 volts per square meter. The Russians seem to indicate they have a design that would work to 200,000 volts per square meter, and that is unbelievably dangerous. I mean, wow.
I mean, that could kill a person touching a fence.
Well, I mean, it's like it wouldn't be like it's the amperage and stuff behind it. It's like when you touch, like a static discharge can be 100,000 volts, and stuff. The problem is though, like that's why those devices that you get for your computers come in those static bags, is because that little tiny, even though there's very little amperage behind it, micro or milliamps or something behind it, the voltage is so high it can melt the little itty, micro several atom sticks wires inside the microchips. So
this is for nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how come, like one of these things, like a super EMP weapon of 200,000 volts per square meter, it would destroy tons of electronics. I mean, gobs and gobs of electronics.
All right, I got a special video here I'm going to put up here. And let me change my speaker system.
This is a family channel, Gil.
All right, let me change this around here. And so, guys, you may need to mute your mics for a second so we don't get feedback when I run this. All right, so
the CHAMP, or Counter Electronics High-Powered Microwave Advanced Missile Project. This animation shows a simulated weapon flying over selected targets, hitting them with high-power radio wave bursts and defeating their electrical and data systems without causing injury or collateral damage. But it was no simulation Tuesday over the Utah Test and Training Range, where Boeing and the U.S. Air Force Research Laboratories Directed Energy Directorate successfully flew the first fully operational CHAMP weapon.
We hit every target we wanted to. We prosecuted everyone. Today, we made science fiction science fact.
This video, recorded during an earlier test, shows what CHAMP is capable of. Watch the computer screens in this office as the directed energy hits the building. While the computers were knocked out, there is no structural damage.
When that computer went out, when we fired, it actually took out the cameras as well. We took out everything on that. It was fantastic.
Okay, listen to that again. Let me get back there.
We fired, it actually took out the cameras as well. We took out everything on that.
Okay, quick note on this. The cameras were in Faraday cages to protect them.
It was fantastic. Excellent team. I mean, like I said, the reason we are successful is due to the team and the team effort.
A non-lethal weapon that can defeat targets without collateral damage is an idea that's been portrayed in television and film for decades. But this, says AFRL Champ Lead Test Engineer Peter Finlay, is no movie.
We're not quite up to the place where the Star Trek and Star Wars movies are, but this is definitely an advancement in technology to be able to give us an opportunity to do things that we couldn't do before.
James Dodd, Vice President of Advanced Boeing Military Aircraft, says his team is focused on developing the innovation to protect U.S. troops.
We know this has some capabilities and some impact. And so we're really trying to engage the customer and see if there's a way that we could actually get this fielded and implemented sooner than later.
After its first flight.
Okay. All right, I'm going to upload that video tomorrow on my channel, so everyone go watch the full video on it. But what do you think?
Oh, they definitely have directed energy weapons. They've been doing that for a while. It's interesting what they pasted over and didn't cover. That's all classified in that video, but
yeah,
pretty cool and stuff because they're actually because the amount of energy required to shut down things like that, you're basically using one of those little explosive EMP generators to do it, to direct it out and stuff. But really neat.
Yeah. The thing, and we're probably not the only ones that have developed that. Like you said, Russia's technology dealing with it, they probably have it as well.
I'm certain China is trying to steal everything we know about it. So, hey.
Yeah.
So,
so let me go ahead and take that one down so I can look at my other stuff I got over here.
All right. I'll answer a question I saw in the chat that I thought would be a good one. So right. WD Glock and Roll asked, what would be the purpose of an EMP to EMP the U.S. and not just nuke us? Seems like if you use an EMP, we'd be at war with you in a minimum. Well, there's actually a real good reason I'll outline for you on that, WD. So one of the things that is a problem the U.S. has been dealing with at a national security level and been very concerned with is like when we're dealing with Russia and China and the other superpowers. Yeah, we can track where they're going to launch from. We know where their subs are and other stuff like that. But the U.S. has been projecting power across the world and saying, hey, you do what we want, or we put sanctions on you and all this stuff. We have military bases and partners with NATO all across the world and everything else. So if you were a small state, say North Korea, Iran, I'll just use those two as an example, shall we say, and you are sick of the U.S. being on your throat the whole time and telling you what to do, what they could do is smuggle a weapon like that, a nuclear weapon that can make an EMP, on a cargo ship or something like that, or a boat, and launch it and get it over to the U.S. because a Scud missile could even get high enough. I mean, you're only talking 400 kilometers. And you cannot intercept a missile up. You can't do it. It's got to be coming on the way down because it's accelerating so fast, you can't catch it. So all they got to do is get close and launch up. And the problem is what it would do is it wound the U.S. You've literally taken out the mainland. We have electrical problems that aren't working. Everything's in chaos and all that. You have to bring the troops home. You got to recall troops all across the world and bring them home. It's the idea of like wounding a squad so they can't project force further. They got to go back. Same thing. So you wound the mainland. We bring all our troops and all this other stuff home. We got to do the recovery effort, do all this other stuff. And these countries may think it is their chance to make a play on the world stage.
Yeah.
And they can also very effectively hide they did it.
Yeah, there's been way too many books written by notable authors on possible ways that can be done. And most of the time it involves a regular shipping container and a big boat, and all they got to do is get to the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah.
Well, Christy, the nukes, when they go up, when they detonate an EMP like this, it's so far above that all of the fallout is in space. It actually doesn't really affect us on the ground.
And if they were using one of those non-nuclear ones, like they had the diagram up there earlier, and they built it on a large enough scale, it could do the same thing with absolutely no radiation. And they didn't even have to go up, that high. They could send up a couple short ones, like the map that showed 30-mile ranges and stuff. They could send some short ones up and missiles and do that.
I think though for the non-nuclear ones, you're going to need to do a lot of them because I don't think they're strong, but they're not nearly as strong as a nuclear weapon.
That's what I was saying. If they used several of them,
yeah, it would have to be a lot, I would say.
Yeah, and all needed to really do is hit key locations.
Yeah, there you go. That's the exact point.
New York City and the Baltimore area and DC area. That's going to cause a massive amount of problems there. Wall Street going black.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
then,
so a targeted select like that would be very effective too.
Yeah.
The nuclear one is so dangerous because it just takes one of those things, and it can cause massive damage.
Yeah, and thing with non-nuclear, they can say we didn't use nukes, and then fall back on the U.S. Oh, we're sorry, it was a mistake. We had a rogue general.
Now, crazy thing,
offer someone up for sacrifice.
Now, crazy thing for you guys to consider is Russia has actually had a position. They changed their position, saying they do not see EMP weapons as a retaliatory for nuclear strikes. So by them saying that, it opens the door saying that they would consider it reasonable to use an EMP in a first strike.
Yeah, there were several articles I saw on that as well. So I got another little PowerPoint here to throw up here. This is was given to me by a friend of mine who is at Minuteman Preface's YouTube channel. And so let me throw this up here. Okay. And this is a presentation he gives at emergency preparedness fairs and stuff. So I don't have his entire speech memorized, but I have seen it 4 times. So I will go through it a bit here, and we will cover it here. All right. First and foremost, all information on the EMPs is still not 100% understood. You agree, Reed?
Yep. And the guy who modeled the EMP model, his name's Conrad Longmire, and he has a lot of papers and stuff you can go research about him. There's a lot of unknowns that people still are debating about of what all an EMP does.
Yeah. I mean, it's sort of like Einstein's theory of relativity when he first put it out. How long did it take for that to become, oh, yeah, that is true.
Well, yeah, they put it together in the 50s. The U.S. got our real good thing with a detonation of Castle Bravo.
Yeah.
And they worked on it. They had the papers released in the late 70s. And then the other scientists were arguing back and forth into the 90s still and stuff.
All right.
Now we've bored everyone, put them to sleep, of course.
Yeah. So, and we look at this, the item 2 here. There are only a dozen or so events that help us understand, EMPs or solar flares, what they would do to our society. All we can do is really guesstimate. All right. So let's go down to the next slide here. All right. So there are EMPs, HEMPs, and super EMPs. An EMP is basically an electromagnetic pulse caused by man, or it occurs naturally. A nuclear HEMP is caused by a nuclear warhead explodes. Huh?
Said hello, overbuilt.
Overbuilt. Hey, hi. Are exploded in the air 30 plus miles up. Powerful gamma rays emitted from the explosion cause the electrical disturbance. It's called the Camppatton effect and overcharges the electrical items. A super EMP is a nuclear warhead 5 to 10 times stronger than the average nuclear warhead and do more damage to protected and unprotected items.
Now, I want to make a correction on the super EMP one. It means it's stronger at generating an EMP. Okay. It not necessarily meaning it's more powerful explosion. It's more gamma rays produced is what the thing's doing.
Yeah. And therefore, it should have a little bit, because it's so much, it might go a little bit farther. Do you think?
Sorry, would it go farther? Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So your circumference of your area is bigger.
Hey, WD, to answer that one, I have a home-built Faraday type cage, and I do keep electronics in it.
And we will have a whole section on Faraday cage as soon as I'm done with this. All right. So another nice design showing the effects and everything. So it takes usually 1 to 2 days for a solar radiation to reach the Earth. Etc. July, so anything I talked about that one. NASA gives a 12% chance of a solar superstorm happening before 2022.
And they actually, isn't it like, I think it's like 14 or 15% they estimate per decade of a very large one hitting us or something.
Yeah. I think Ben said something about that a couple of weeks back.
Yeah.
Yeah, he'll know. He'll have the number off the top of his head far better than me. That's his corner for sure.
Yeah. So where it's, we're getting, and this was first put, Ben started using this, 3 years ago. So we're getting closer. All right. Talks about what a bomb can do. We already saw a similar type on this. All right. Anything uses a computer or microchip would most likely fail. The power grid, transportation, fuel, water, food, distribution, communications, networks, health systems, media, national defense systems, etc., would be impacted. So if they were able to take out the computers, shopping. How much food does Walmart have in its store before it goes 3 days? Yeah, before it's empty, 3 days. If they have no way of ordering that food.
Well, and then the pumps aren't even working to make the gas to get the trucks going.
Mm-hmm.
The railroads aren't going because the diesel's not there.
All right. Now, Mark Salvio, the Prepper Project in June 2011, said within 30 days, a mass die-off will have begun as food supplies dwindle, looters, gangs turn violent, extremes, medicines can't be restocked, water pumps fail. Yeah, and EMP ruins any and all unprotected devices in line of sight of the explosion.
And that's nuclear, guys. We're talking
Yeah.
nuclear on that one.
Yeah, that's nuclear. Now here's your E1, E2, and E3.
And that, so if you look on what Gil's got there, you see the thing in blue where it says 5 nanoseconds? That's what makes this thing so ridiculously hard to protect against, okay? So, like, I've seen people talk about, can't we use just a regular surge suppressor? Isn't that going to protect us, right? Well, the problem is that, like, a regular surge suppressor and all those others that we have in our houses and all that other stuff, they start working on the order of around, 60 to 90 nanoseconds. That's a little too slow. It's already long gone and done by then.
Damage is done by the time it realizes, whoa, what was that?
Yep. That is. Sorry, Gil, go on.
No, I like this one here. The electrons travel at, too far, sorry. Travel at 269 million, 813,212 meters per second. That's 90% the speed of light towards Earth. The electrons, not the particles of other stuff. That's the ones that hits the manosphere, or if it's a detonation, that's, from that point, that's how the electrons are coming down in that the gamma radiation has caused. Okay, after E1 happens and lasts between 1 microsecond and 1 second, acts similar to lightning that can occur and cause protective equipment to fail. Items such as surge protectors, resistors, and other protective measures will break. After E2 happens and lasts between 10 to hundreds of seconds, acts very similar to geomagnetic storms will occur, like very severe solar storms, detrimental to long-term electrical conductors, power lines, transformers, items connected to the grid.
And that's the part that kills the grid, yeah. That's the one that kills it. The E1 is the one that takes out all your cell phones, handheld electronics, and other stuff like that. A good chance it'll kill your car, and so you won't be able to drive it away. And the E3 is what comes a little bit later, and then you see all the transformers exploding all around you.
Mm-hmm. All right, the next one here. According to CIA Director James Woosley, this is back in 2014, 2/3 of the U.S. population would likely perish from starvation, disease, social breakdown. Other experts, United States Army, estimate losses to be closer to 90%.
That interview that Woolsey's talking about, you can find on YouTube if you guys go look. It's on there when he's talking about that. And the EMP Commission report also thinks it's closer to be 90%. And you can go download that off the web yourselves.
Yeah. Now, Joel I can't pronounce his name. Skolskin. An EMP will no doubt happen. It has already happened, and will be ready to happen after the EMP, because about 10 minutes after, there will probably be a nuclear strike. Within 7 to 10 days after the first EMP, another one will be set off as a backup. Now, he's talking about from China or Russia. So Forbes magazine said we wouldn't feel it pass through our bodies. The EMP would pass unnoticed as it fried the iPhones in our pockets, knocked out our telecommunication systems, rendered our cars and communication systems useless, and took out the power grid. We would
to try to wake people up, and so we're not boring them to death with PowerPoint here. So imagine that you're sitting, walking outside doing stuff, whatever, and you go pick up your phone and you're like, it's black, because you thought you felt something or other. And you notice the small smell of burning electronics in the air. And then just little bit after that, you're noticing suddenly you see bright flashes along the electrical lines as the transformers go boom in the residential area, as the residential transformers are gone. And you sit there and you go, what the hell just happened? You go over to your car and you try to press your little key fob to unlock the car. Funny, it's not working. That's odd. Okay, so you use the backup key, open the car, get in there, you turn it on. And, maybe some lights come on and stuff like that. But for some reason, it isn't starting. You're not even getting the click of like a low battery. It's just like not engaging. And you're like, what the heck is going on? But here's the weird part. Guy over on the right next to you, the other side of the house, who happens to be angled differently, the way he parks his car, he gets in, his starts right up. And you're like, what in the heck is going on? And that's one of the big issues is EMPs, unfortunately, what Hollywood, well, actually, that's how all Hollywood is usually a bunch of craziness of crazies that doesn't make much sense. It's not a little bit of, nothing happens. It's, the magic smoke is released. Things explode, fires start. Some cars are going to work, some aren't, depending on how they were parked, because the metal body panels may just provide enough protection that certain parts of the electronics are not destroyed. And other people parked a different way, they're taken out. And stuff like that. And also, contrary to popular belief that an old car is safe from an EMP, that's not true. Any sort of coil in a car is a major target. And the Russians found this out in the Project K event, because they found out lots of things that they thought would be protected against EMP were not. They found out coils were not protected because coils are just, resin-coated wire. It's called magnet wire. You wrap around stuff. And the electricity will just punch through it and then short out the coil. So your alternator, your condensers, the ignition coils, all could be susceptible. So your old car, you got planned thinking, yes, I'm set against an EMP. I can just drive out of here, no problem. Maybe not. I want to have some spare parts put in the Faraday cage.
Exactly. And the other thing too is that also would affect it. Like a lot of farmers have big metal barns and sheds to park equipment to. That might, not definitely, might provide a little bit of shielding. All right, next one is nationally directed things that'll fail. National power grid, yes. Fuel distribution, yes. Highways and transportation, yes. Airplanes they're saying no because they're supposedly, because of their the aluminum skin on them and stuff is supposed to help protect them, and they shield a lot of the stuff inside. Which brings up a point is, how they tell you when you get on a plane to turn off your cell phones and stuff when you get ready to take off? Well, that's because the signal waves are bouncing around inside the skin. So theoretically, it's protected from the outside, just not the cell phones you have on the inside. So your cell phones on a plane may still be viable when the plane lands, if it can communicate with somebody to land with on the ground. Yeah,
that's because you guys have probably seen those photos of like planes that are hit by lightning, how it conducts right across the skin.
Yeah, and
stuff, and that's the key. You're having the energy travel around it and not going to the inside.
Yeah. Let's see here. Water, food supplies, yes. Industrial capacity work, yeah. A lot of factories and businesses will be shut down. Communications, satellites, some yes, some no. Because some are hardened, some are not. Some have been up there too long for ancient, and they're gonna be taken out. Hospital supply and equipment is going to be taken out. Will fail. And the question is, would anybody really attack the U.S.? We addressed this a little bit. China, Russia, North Korea, Iran have EMP capabilities. They would also give that technology to anyone who would use it to get, use it to get the favor givers a favor. ISIS, here you go. You can go take care of the U.S. Yeah. So there's it's unlikely. That talks about the Wall Street Journal. We'll put out an article talking about it, about Russia and China, and basically that they would probably employ electromagnetic as the primary or sole means of attack, because it's not a nuclear attack, or it's, the nuclear is not aimed at the land itself. More talking about an EMP attack on it. An EMP bomb can be actually made for about $2,000. Of course, that was a few years ago, so it's probably $4,000 now, the way inflation's going. Russia has made extensive preparations to protecting its infrastructure against HEMP. That's high altitude EMP.
And actually, Gil, I got to jump on that. One of the things that's very interesting with Russia is they are doing a lot to protect themselves. They're making themselves have, an independent internet so they can cut off from the rest of the world and keep operating. They're doing things to protect their power grid and all sorts of other stuff. They still do civil defense drills. We don't. There's a lot of interesting things Russia is doing to be prepared for this.
Yeah. I just noticed something. Tibor said probably enter through the house wiring. Yep.
Yes. Yep. That's the big issue. It'll come right through your house. Well, okay, so from solar and nuclear, the E3 pulse will come right through your house wiring. Now, nuclear will also, just from the radiated energy coming down from the weapon, enter your house that way.
Yeah. China. There is ongoing drills in the People's Liberation Army to respond to EMP. Well, not right now. There's not, but there was a couple months ago. The largest Chinese military drill ever. The Chinese Army highlights its response to EMP-caused outages of communications, radar systems, and air defense systems. So, they're practicing. Are we? Nope. Not that I know of. Oh. Yeah, I love this one. What is the U.S. preparing for an EMP? Well, someone said nothing. All right. William.
Nancy's husband right there saying shh.
Yeah, that's someone else's husband.
No, I mean the guy in the picture going.
Up here?
Yeah, isn't that Nancy's husband?
No, that's the abomination.
Like I said.
Okay, William R. Fortune. He's a PhD. He's author of the book 1 Second After, 1 Day After, 1 Year After, and The Final Day, dealing with this. As to emergency stockpiles and crucial replacement parts, there is nothing in place. However, since so-and-so was in charge, they have started, when we have had Scott from Hidden Valley Homestead was saying that when he places a transformer, they're having in place a backup one in the same facility off to the side, but there's one in place now going forward.
Which is really good to hear, but it's also not good when you think how much work it'd have to be to hook the darn thing up.
Yeah, and they got to get the crane there, which means the truck has to start. The other trucks that are carrying all the supply pieces for it, the other rigging and stuff, to get it there. So in 2013, the Congress, the SHIELD Act was now we're not talking Nick Fury and the Avengers here. The SHIELD Act was proposed to protect national grid from an EMP attacks and solar flares. It never got past introduction to the House. Thank you, Nancy.
Every time they've gotten stuff to do the work to repair, to fix, to make the power grid less susceptible, full protection is very difficult, but less susceptible to EMP, it's always died. They have never gotten anywhere.
Thank you, Nancy.
Yep.
Now, electric versus electronic. Toaster ovens here. You got one of these old ones that has the mechanical dials on it versus the one with the circuit board in it. Which one's going to die instantly?
Both.
You sure?
Oh, pretty darn sure. Because, well, okay, the nuclear EMP will take out the electronics, and then the E3 pulse will burn out the stuff on the inside.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah. So your pizza may still keep cooking for another 100 seconds
Yeah.
before it goes poof.
Yeah,
Build
I mean,
yourself a
if it's
brick
connected to the power grid, if you have your own independent power grid, you might have a better chance. But hey,
Yeah, or if it's just unplugged, stuck down in the cupboard.
yeah, yeah.
glass jar.
Now,
Glass jar.
yeah, so like light bulbs, incandescent ones may or may not still work because of the surge. Your mini fluorescents or LEDs, kiss them goodbye, because all the circuitry down in there is going to be fried. And it talks about common items that people like to, smart people like to protect: walkie-talkies, ham radios, hard drives, thumb drives, power inverters, stuff stuff people put away to store for the afterwards. They can, when they're able to get their generators, which is on here, pulled out of their Faraday cages and set up, and they can get their solar panels out and stuff like that. Now,
safe.
What was that?
Kathy made it safe down to Florida.
Yay!
Oh, Steve.
All righty. So, one of the things, like most solar panels have diodes in it to keep the voltage from, backfeeding off the batteries and basically illuminating back out into the atmosphere.
Oh, actually, Gil, those diodes inside the solar panels, that's called a bypass diode. It actually deals with shading.
Right.
The charge controller is actually what stops the irradiating energy.
Right.
So that's not that's a little difference on that. And actually, though, but if you have if your solar panel, if you're not grid tied, if you're independent off grid, I've been trying the main wires coming out of the solar panels, stuff like that. I don't think are going to be a problem even with a nuclear one. I think it's going to be those thin wires attaching the little individual cells are going to burn out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because okay, so there's people. There's a list, you guys. So read a list of all the Blu-ray players. You want to put one of those in a Faraday cage or a bag to protect, because your kids are going to drive you nuts if they don't have something to watch. But one of the things I saw article talking about that was on the wires going from each panel to the big wires, which go down to the controller and then everything else. They were talking about wrapping those with a aluminum
foil, like
a foil, but a spec that's made for it, that's a little stronger than aluminum foil, and then securing it with that aluminum tape stuff.
Aluminum vent tape.
Yeah. So that and then putting a plastic wiring harness sleeve over it to protect the foil, so your solar panel stuff is more likely to survive.
So yeah, so actually, there's a book out by a guy named Ronald White. He is an RF electrical engineer, stuff like that. He has a book about EMPs and all that. And one of the things he was talking about on solar panels is he was talking about getting a very thin mesh, thin wire mesh to put over the sun exposed part of the thing, and then have a better mesh on the back and the wires. So you basically build a Faraday cage around it that can transmit light. And it was only a reduction in solar luminosity on the solar panels by about 9%. And it would be able to reduce the intensity of the energy hitting the solar panels by enough that they would survive and things. The other one you can also add is, since EMPs contain a lot of high frequency components for nuclear side, is you can add, those magnet coils you see on electrical wires or electronic devices where they have those iron cores or whatever. They act like a choke, and so they make the wire resistant to conducting high frequency stuff.
Right. And you can buy those on Amazon to add to wires. Because some of the older solar panels, like I have some of the older ones, don't have the diodes in them. And Well, I was reading up, and when I get to hit those, start putting those back up, I bought some diodes, so I tie those together, and it has the diode, so it doesn't, so it protects it a little bit there. But I got extra diodes on that. Okay, what about my? Oh, you talked about the car. Yeah,
Sorry, I'm getting you all out of order.
No. Hey, sometimes people need to hear things 2 or 3 times for them to remember it. So your easy fix is a gasoline pre-1992 or diesel 1995. Manual transmission is best. But there's still, you may have to, other items needed. Alternator, starter, timing belt, if it's, the metal timing belts, if you ever welded on something and you welded on a table, you welded on something else, and what was like a bicycle chain or something, all of a sudden now the bicycle chain is spot welded in several spots. That's one of the things. That's why he put timing belts in there. Water pumps, spark plugs, blah blah blah. Water pumps too, because it's metal on the bushings and stuff. Same thing with the starters. You can get an arc there and cause a spot weld on it, which will cause it to fail after a short time.
Go ahead and post that wiki leak. It's in private. That way people can know what to go look for and order if they wish to get one.
Okay. There we go. Post that. And back to here. Okay, and I need to bring this down for a second.
That right back in private.
Post it right back. Okay, let me. There we go. I got it in the right chat. There we go.
That's those little ferrite coils that he was talking about.
Now there's a website out there called Future Science. They have a lot of EMP resources all in one place. Have you seen it, Gil?
No. What was it again?
Let me post the link so people can see it.
Okay.
I think it's a good website that has a lot of EMP material. Now, a lot of the stuff I've been able to cross-reference, and it shows to primary resources, and so it jives, and it's like, yeah, this seems very legit. Some of it I haven't been able to, but I'd say for the most part, this website's quite reliable on EMP information.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
They also have a very good article about will your car will or will not run after an EMP.
Oh, Lori, you don't click on my channel name. You actually put the cursor over the hyperlink and click on the hyperlink.
She's on a mobile. It won't let you do that on a mobile.
Oh, that's why
really?
I'm mobile. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Okay, so that explains it. So you have to be you can't be on a mobile device to click these links. You got to be on a laptop or a desktop. So to see a real computer.
I'll get you the link, Lori.
Yeah.
And the reason why I brought Future Science up is on the car thing. They suggested taking apart a good chunk of your car to get to the wire harness and put the ferrite coils on it. Because there's a lot of discussion and evidence to support that might really help your car survive a possible nuclear EMP attack. But it's might. It's might. We don't know for certain.
No, Steve. Anthony does not live in a trailer. Remember that the tree fell on his house. He had the video on it, and he's been up there working on the roof.
Wait, how do we know it was really his house? Maybe he's faking us out.
Yeah. Okay, so let me throw this other thing up here now. We're getting into protection. All right, so Faraday cages. This is just Googling, Faraday cage, and I clicked on images. So you got wire mesh and stuff. A lot of Faraday cages are made from copper wire mesh. And there's different thicknesses of these mesh these will work on different frequency spectrums, wavelengths, basically. So yeah, some of the ones you'll see the guy standing up with the Tesla coils, and these guys are in different things, and they're not being hit. Well, that's because the frequency of the Tesla coil is set so they can hide inside of a shopping cart stacked on top of each other and be protected. Whereas a different frequency would go right between it and light the guy up inside. But they got different ones, so you can build a little shed out of it. They put this one here, they put a little bit of plastic over the mesh there to protect it from being damaged. And I'm not sure how much this is, running wiring into it is going to protect it, unless you put some of those iron diode things on the cabling to keep the high frequency stuff from going through.
If you
I mean,
want,
yeah, that's the problem. Is the stuff on the outside the wire, it'll pick up stuff
and carry it right on in.
Go back to your old Mythbusters videos. Some of them they actually have a Faraday cage built for some of their experiments.
And they made basically out of this real fine copper material. They made suits for when they were doing the lightsaber one with the electrical contact. It had to be very soft, flexible copper mesh. But yeah, there are a lot of different types of ones you can do. Now, however, I don't know if you can see let me go up here and see how fine the mesh is on this one. And some of them are bigger holes and stuff. The problem is, guys, how expensive is this copper mesh?
ridiculous.
Ridiculous. So what are we, the non-rich people that don't have the backings of Mythbusters, going to do to do it?
Well, it turns out aluminum and steel also work great for stopping this stuff from getting through.
Yep. And let's see if this works right here. There are dozens and dozens of videos on YouTube about how to turn one of these Army surplus ammo cans into a Faraday cage. They'll have you get some thin rubber and adhesive glue it to the inside, so it's stuff you put in there is not touching the sides or anything. Yeah, I've seen several videos on these where they take a trash can or a small metal can, put stuff inside plastic bags inside. This one here looks like they're using some of the Faraday bags inside of the bag inside of it. So they're, I forget what it's called when you put a bag inside of a bag. But yeah, so that one, protecting it. Now, the problem is with this, and we were talking about it before, with this one and this one, if the rubber gasket in here has a gap in it enough, you can get some high frequency charges going through to the inside. It's like a spark wire. When you get a little crack in a spark wire, you'll see the arc going across the high frequency.
Yeah, basically that big seam that you've got here, you want it to be a continuous conducting system. So like metal tape taped around the outside to close up that seam, good solution.
And then when you put the lid on, you tape around it to secure the lid.
Now, a good test to see if your Faraday cage is working pretty well, stick your cell phone in it, close it up, see if you can call it. If it rings, you got a leak.
Yep.
If it's not ringing, you're doing a pretty good job.
Yeah. And if you really want to test it for high frequency, get a ham radio, put it in there, and put a 30-watt transmitter right next to it.
Just don't touch your skin with that. Yeah,
you don't want to with the like the Carrington with the 30-watt thing on it. And if you can hear the radio inside, you got a leak. But this one here is interesting. I liked it because they took a big metal garbage can and put a rubber one inside of it to line it to protect your items from touching the sides. And then once you put the lid on it, you'll need to secure it with that aluminum ducting tape to secure it. Not duct tape, the regular stuff fabric stuff you can tear, but the stuff that is aluminum foil that you got to put on there. Yes, that stuff.
Yep, that's it. That's it.
Hang on. I want to put let me see here. If I do this right, go ahead. Show that again. Make sure everybody can see that.
Sorry, guys, didn't mean to scare you.
Yeah, that stuff.
And this is the cold weather stuff, so it's designed to stick better.
Yeah.
And seeing as how we're focused, I made one out of a popcorn can. It's lined inside. Anywhere where there was metal showing, I took rubber cement, coated it, then I put some liquid tape over top of that and lined the inside. And when it's put together, you take said tape and go around the top here so there's no seam at all. That way there's no way for the long waves to get into it. There's no long path.
Yeah. And so like, yeah, that's very good. You want to, coat the inside. So anything touching the metal, you can get a transient carrier through, from metal side to metal side if it's touching the metal. Now, so this guy's got the Rubbermaid rubber trash can inside of it. You put the lid on it and you tape it up. And the next one here, come on. Now, these barrels are around all over the place. They're called open top barrels, different sizes, everything from 5-gallon up to 55-gallon. Some are coated on the inside of them, some are not. Even if it's coated, I would coat it with something else, and I'll talk about that coating here in a second. But these have a rubber gasket on them, and I'll give you a better picture of that here in a second. There's two types of sealing on it. One is this little binder clip thing, the ring on it. It cinches down on it and forces the covering is the metal going around is shaped like this. And so you got your two bead pieces and it forces it together when you bind it down. And it usually has a rubber gasket, a seamless rubber gasket in there. The next one has the bolt-on type. And it's basically this is threaded and you just tighten it down and secure it. This is watertight.
And you can get these from your local drug dealer.
And it probably has a lot of coffee grounds in it.
There you go.
For your garden.
Smells great.
Yeah, this is the little 10-gallon one.
Oh, that's cute.
Yeah, you like that little 10-gallon one? Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah,
I hadn't seen one of those actually.
Yeah, I've seen a bunch of these little ones around. You got to find them when you can find them. They're cheap, but once they're all the supply, they come in waves. When they have them. But yeah, and this is an old civil defense water can. Has a plastic liner on it. Plus, the inside is coated as well to make it waterproof as well. And the lid is gasketed. And this is a 17.5-gallon one. They also have 30-gallon and 55-gallon ones. Now, ways to coat the inside. This stuff has been around since I was a little kid, it seems like. You can take your pliers and dip them in there to give them a rubber coating so that you don't get shocked when you are working on something that you should have turned the power off to. And it also gives better grip and stuff on some of them. But plastic dip has been around forever. I've used it on a lot of stuff. And you can, besides dipping it, you can also paint it. And then there's another brand called Rubberize It, and it comes everything from quarts up to the 5-gallon container here. And the plastic dip comes in a spray now too. And if you don't want black, what's that?
There's another link for you.
Okay. So give me a second here. I throw this other link up in here.
You may want to actually look at that one too. I don't know. You might not.
Liquid tape. Oh yeah. And go back to this one. And so I can put it in the right link, right chat there. There we go. That's the liquid rubber tape. But if you don't like black on the inside of your containers, you want to be able to see, make it look a little nicer. They have fluorescent color ones too, which also show up really well if you accidentally scratch the inside, putting stuff in and out of it.
That's a good point. That is a good point.
Yeah. Now, what else you can do for those big barrels, those, I think that's the end of it here. Yeah, it's the end of it. So let's go back over here. On those big barrels, you can get those at Sam's Club, Home Depot, Costco, Lowe's. They have those rubber insulating mats to stand on. You cut that to fit one of those to fit the size of the bottom, and you line the others up on the side. And in the final gap there, you can seal it with the a number of different products. You seal it with those the stuff we showed there. If you have a big enough gap, you can go after you use your adhesive to stick it aside, shoot some big gap foam insulation in there, and then coat over the top of that. If you're worried about it with any of the things we've talked about here, the liquid tape, the Flex Seal, which we haven't talked about. The Flex Seal, something else you can use, or the plastic dip, and just seal the sides up to it as well. And then you can do the roof too, the top of the lid, or the bottom. And yeah, let me get tongue tied here. The lid, the inside of the lid, so the lid will still fit on there, and nothing will touch in case it gets knocked over or anything.
Deep breath, Gil. Deep breath.
Wait a minute. There, I untwisted my tongue.
The chat's busy talking about how to get rid of bodies.
Who's talking about how to get rid of bodies? The side chat? Oh, okay, guys. The best way to get rid of bodies, you get yourself a big industrial tree chipper like they tow behind the trucks, and you get the pig, and you back it up to the pig pen. All gone. Actually, I got that from a book, a novel. Actually, I got that from several novels they did that in.
Oh,
now,
here's Anthony mentions that WD-40 turns plastic dip into goo. Anyone ever tried that? I haven't seen that.
Oh, WD-40 turns a lot of different things into goo that way.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't get WD-40 on your plastic dip.
Yeah. Now, there is in the one garbage can we saw that one of the first garbage cans, and you saw some of the stuff in a bag. Let me see if I can get this up here. There is several companies out here.
Great. I was hoping you'd bring these up because I tried to reference what I was talking about earlier. But yeah, they have these bags for this stuff.
Yeah. If you guys, my friend sells them. He's not giving me any money to say this. I just like him. I bought some from him. I got stuff in them. If you go to Minuteman Prep and check on his videos, he's got some of these in there. Takes you to his company, Power Portable Systems or something like that. But yeah, he has all different bags and stuff. And so if you're really worried, you can double bag. But I got a video that's going to blow your socks off here. Let me pull this other video up here. Let me get this back down here for a second while I go digging into my stash here. Special videos. There we go. The microwave, running the cell phone and radio through the microwave. Okay, and let's put this thing here up and make sure it works here, right?
The Tech Protect bag is manufactured to U.S. military specifications. It also provides for water vapor-proof protection and attenuation of electromagnetic radiation. The Faraday cage, like the Tech Protect EMP bag, is an enclosure designed to block out external electromagnetic fields. Please don't try this at home. You will ruin your microwave and possibly injure yourself. Tech Protect does not report any damage done to your electronics or your person. Okay, let's turn on these radios to make sure they work. And this one. Manning's available. Sanchez. I'm going to put this one inside the Tech Protect bag. Seal it properly. Put it inside the microwave. And this one will not get the protection of the Tech Protect bag. Ready? Okay. Let's see if this one still works. Nope, this radio is very much dead.
us and said, look,
Well, the one in our take
they gotta be
bag
careful here.
still
Because
works
if they make
perfectly.
a hard run at
And as you can see, this one is still smoking.
Now, this is absolutely accurate and true.
Yeah, I mean, you know, this is funny to watch these guys do their tests.
Yeah,
Items.
what's going on is the bag conducts the electricity and the energy around the device in the inside. That's why it's safe. It never experiences this energy hitting it.
Yeah. All right, turn it back up and start it again.
Like
Oh,
yourself.
sorry.
Let's show that it gets a signal. There we go. Now we're going to put it in the bag.
Joe, turn the radio volume down. That's why it's sounded so bad.
Properly.
I got the volume up.
Into the microwave.
I got up all the way.
No, turn it down. It's overmodulating.
Okay.
Plasma.
Oh man, that cracks me up.
Let's try our cell phone. Let's see if we get a signal. And we still get a signal.
Yep. Yeah. So actually, if you guys want to do something at home that's kind of fun, take a CD, like one you can like a CDR that you can record on, or if you want to destroy a regular CD, it's fine too. Put it in the microwave for like 2 seconds. It will stink to high heavens, but it will make those blue flashes we saw going on, and you can pull it out, and you'll see all these lines and stuff all across, and that's literally where the energy has destroyed and melted the silver reflective layer in the CD.
Just so you know, though, when you do that, you're creating plasma in your microwave. Do not do it for more than a few seconds. The top of the microwave will get hot, and you will short circuit your microwave.
Absolutely. That's why I say like 1 or 2.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So really quick here. I'm gonna throw this in the chat. All right.
Those are funny videos.
Yeah. All right. The link I just I'm putting in the chat right now is to Minuteman Prep, and Ben has several videos, including a couple of the kits here that have the stuff on it, and his website. We have to go through it this way here. So pardon me, down in here. Come on. Show more. Porter Powell. Yeah, here we go. And this is his website. And throw that in there. And go to the shopping. And in the bottom of the shopping, so even up on here, he has, with kits, he includes stuff with the kits. But all the stuff here, he includes some of these bags. And you can buy the bags separately here. Now, if you want to see that video in full of the thing, you go to EMP bag, or let's see if I can see if it does it right here. Tech bag. There we go. He's an authorized dealer for Tech Protect, but they have the video right there. When you go to the thing, you can watch the whole video, and if there's problems of you or hearing it, you can watch it there. But yeah, what they do next, they go put the working cell phone back in there and fry the cell phone. It sparks and does funny things too. So, alrighty, yeah. So I can go ahead and close that one out. But,
so
yeah.
The other thing, though, guys, we're talking about like these EMP bags and stuff you've seen. That is for a nuclear event. Okay, the nuclear powered system, the nuclear EMP is what has the ability to fry electronic systems like that. So if we're talking about on the solar one, which is very, very likely, I mean, it's just a matter of time till it hits. We don't know when, but it's going to happen again. When one of those happens, what happens is your handheld electronics may work, but the cell tower that was attached to is now a molten slag on the ground. as it's been melted because it's connected to the very long power lines.
Yeah.
So it's like for your house and stuff like that, most likely what's going to happen is your transformer that is powering your house is going to blow up, or the one next to you is going to blow up from their neighborhood. Whatever's going to short that out. The stuff that was in your house, you could have a lot of things. Like you ever turn a light on, like the old incandescent just pops. You may have a pile of those happen. You may have things that smell. They may go into some rooms and it just stinks because of that, burning plastic smell everywhere. There's a good chance that a lot of houses are going to catch on fire because some panels exploded from issues and arc flashes happened, and stuff like that. The solar one is much more defensible. There are ways we can definitely mitigate that so that you can protect your house even when one of those happen, and stuff, and such. And they're the ones far more likely. Now, a nuclear one is very hard. They are difficult little bastards, though.
Yeah. What's in the side chat there? WD Glock and Roll said, but you go to check out your bag after EMP and pull it out, and they do a second shot. Like I mentioned earlier, the one expert that had put out that they'll do one followed by possibly a nuclear exchange, and then a second EMP a week later to get everybody that's pulling their stuff out of it. So, yeah. So for an exchange, you may have to go a week or two before you pull your stuff out, or have duplicates to pull out.
And you can't even say it's going to be two. We don't even know what's going on. And that's one of the ugly things about a lot of these events is we as a group on the ground where we're at, what may happen, like say the nuclear event happens, we may not see the nuclear blast, we may not see the aurora, so like that. We just know crap just gone wrong. Thing is, communications are cut off, so even our government officials and people nearby in charge of the town, city police, sheriffs and all that, they may have no idea. You could have National Guard nearby, doesn't really know either. The effects aren't understood. We can say, hey, it seems like this, but are we sure? No. We're going to be really in the dark, very ignorant of a lot of stuff. So like if you're after protecting against the nuclear one, you literally have to shield a living area so that you could operate within it that's completely shielded. So even if 4 or 5 of them go off, you're fine. It's just not easy. It's not easy though.
You guys lost the side chat. Side chat has been totally derailed by a squirrel.
Huh? Cheesecake.
Oh yeah.
Now, I heard, and I haven't verified this yet, so I thought I'd throw this up, get your opinion on this. That someone was saying that if there is a mine nearby that you can go to, an old mine, and you get underground a ways, that it will protect you from the even a nuclear EMP.
Well, that's yes and no on that one. So, okay, if it's an old mine, and as long as the darn steel cables or railroad ties and stuff like that aren't going down in there, because they could be like antennas grabbing a lot of the energy, pulling it down. So say those aren't there. Well, believe it or not, large amounts of earth or concrete, just like radiation, will stop electrons. So going down underground a ways will do it. Also underwater. Water does not conduct this stuff at all. So they will stop those electrons really well. So basically, radiation shields will stop the electrons of an E1 pulse. Now, here's the complicator. The E3 pulse, which we're dealing with, the induced currents on the ground and the moving of the Earth's magnetic field and back and forth, those go underground quite well. But if you're not dealing with miles of wire, so like you go down there, you take your little generator, you got some stuff hooked up to make some lights and all that. Well, you don't have miles of wire exposed. You probably won't even see anything happen. But if you took a giant extension cord from your house, went 2 miles down underground with it, you're probably going to have a problem.
Yeah. Hey. The one PowerPoint I was showing there from had Protect Tech in the bottom of it. If you guys want to download that or go view it, it is on the Asset Center website. Let me throw that up there for you guys. And so if you go to the Asset Center, you go to Preparedness Fairs here, the handouts, click on it, click on Shelley Ready. And there it is, right there, the first presentation. So, and he has a couple other slides I didn't show, but yeah, so that's there. You guys can go look at it and jot down all the information he has on there if you care to. And so what else was there to show? Oh, the other, since we've already been talking about it, the other wiki page, nuclear. Come on, let's get that to light up. There we go. So there's the link to the final wiki page. And like I said, there's all sorts of other information here. Starfish Prime, Soviet test, more information on E1, E2, E3, weapons at altitude, yield, target distancing, effects, vacuum tubes versus solid state electronics. That surprises a lot of people. Cars, planes, trains, small electronics, humans, animals. So a whole bunch of information here. We're not going to dig much down deeper into it since I think we kind of hit over everything, didn't we?
We've gone over everything, I think, at a superficial level.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, guys, like we mentioned before, it is a very complex topic. So actually, to summarize, if we're looking at, if we're serious about EMPs and stuff like, well, everyone should be serious about EMP, but say it is one, you're like, okay, I'm worried about EMP. How do I protect myself? Well, the most likely EMP we're going to experience is a solar EMP event. Okay. Yeah. Now that means your electronics and stuff like that will be safe. But the problem is the long wires are going to pick up lots of energy and burn stuff out. So like SOP mentioned, check out Ben Carson solar observers. They go over the stuff going on every day. And if you hear like there's a big solar flare, and there's actually an app Solar Observers has out that'll alert you to like big solar flares going off and stuff like that. You hear something like that, you may say, hey, as a preparedness thing, I'm going to disconnect my house for the time being. And, I don't want this energy coming in the house. Now, what do I mean when I say disconnect your house? Okay, so you know how you have the meter by your house, it's like that. Now, usually there is a break for newer homes, like 90s and up. There's usually a main shutoff breaker. You can turn that breaker off. That turns off all the power to your house. Undo the electrical wires and pull them out. You're basically making a big gap that energy cannot jump through to continue on into your house. The only problem though is if that's all attached to a piece of wood and others like that, depending on if you get a big arc flash on that, you may have a slight fire hazard. So something to be aware of. My goal is I want to get the power disconnected from the grid backup, disconnected from my house, and actually put it on a pole away over by the edge of my property and have another set of wires coming in, so I can actually just have a complete gap, and so I can completely disconnect, if I have an issue.
Yeah, I'm lucky for my house in California. The has two breakers on the outside. One goes to the main panel in the house. The other one goes out to the shop. I can just actually grab those, pull them off, hang them down, wrap electrical tape around them, and I can go in the house, do the same thing, pull the one, then I can disconnect the two on the inside, pull them up, wrap electrical tape on them. That isolates me from the power grid, and it takes me, about 2 minutes.
Yeah, and I think that is a viable option to preventing a lot of that really dangerous energy from getting in your house. Yeah. And stuff for the solar. Now, nuclear, that is just hard.
Yeah, you don't have time. There's
a lot to do on it. I honestly think the best, if you're serious about nuclear, I think one of the best ways you could go about it is to buy a shed, like a tough shed and all that, and do the shielding work on that to make a lifeboat sort of system.
Yeah.
And stuff.
There you go, Gil. There's your cue. Robert and Cindy brought your cue up.
Okay, we are not going to talk about that because there's a lot of problems with that company. Just to say, let me put it this way. I find a lot of their stuff to be very, very unscientific. And I watched some of their videos on how to install some of their stuff, and I'm going, no, that ain't going to work. Having been a general engineering contractor, putting in electrical stuff, building electrical power plants, no. So we're not even going to talk about them anymore. Okay, so what we are going to talk about is, let me put this one here. This is what Dave's been talking to you about, suspicious observers. This is the video he put out today. We're not going to play it, but I went over, you can see it showing things flaring off the sun there,
Yeah,
and over here. But then this is
happen every day.
Yeah, this is his website, and there is his link. Okay, so there is that.
Just a
Yeah. Yeah, the little nervous. I used to work for Homeland Security, and they were telling me, "Oh, we're recommended by Homeland Security." No, they're not. Homeland Security did not recognize them. Yeah. So, yeah, I have a problem with anybody claiming that Homeland Security has recommended them for anything other than deportation. Yeah. Anyways, okay. I like that. Okay, I will throw this one up. Maybe. Okay, there we go. Alrighty, so we've been at it here for over 2 hours. And so any questions now? Let's start firing off some questions for Reed or Dave or myself, and we'll have maybe get a few questions answered here before we call it quits for the night. Yes, Steve. Bucking saw would take saw. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. Throw this one up here. Yeah, there's yeah, like Reed said earlier, the surge protectors and stuff are supposed to be dealing with so many I forget now the term, so many joules of energy and everything. But some of the products out there, not just this company we're talking about, there have been a couple other companies too. I've seen their stuff as well, where they put in the power box using 10 gauge or 12 gauge wire connecting to the device off to the side to 2 of the breakers, and that's it. There's nothing really in between the lines coming in going to all the rest of the breakers. I'm sorry, I have a real problem with that.
So there's a product, to not talk on the one Gil want to talk about. There's a product out there by Siemens, the standard company we see out there that's all electrical. They have one that starts what it's called clamping, or electrical clamping, and it will start conducting and bringing the voltage down within 1 nanosecond. It's very fast, so it engages very quickly. So if you think about it, so it goes into your master electrical box and stuff like that, and it connects under the 2 lines coming in, like Gil mentioned. It cuts into there and ground. So the idea is, what it does is it starts conducting, and it dumps all the energy to the ground as fast as it can. So the idea is it pulls the voltage, the spike, down and keeps it from being harmful to the stuff downstream. But it can only handle so much energy before it burns out. That's what they all do, okay? Now, here's the thing, though. So say we're dealing with a solar EMP, right? So we're talking the big E3 pulse. And so you got the energy coming in, so like that. That product could solve your E3 pulse, to clamp it down far enough that it doesn't burn everything out in your house. Depending on how much energy we're dealing with here. That's the problem, is how long and how much energy is going on. Okay, so there's that. Because they all have some upper limit of like 150,000 amps for, 0.002 seconds or something like that. There's so many joules of energy they can absorb before they burn out. And once they burn out, they cannot go any further, and then you're not going to be able to stop it. So the question is, like, how much? So if we're talking like a big solar E3 where we're talking, say it's 20 hours long, it may stop the first little bit of the surge, but probably is going to burn out in the process. And then after that, it's cooked, and the stuff in your house is cooked. Now, if we go to the nuclear side, here's the problem. So say like you have, so you got wires all the way through your house, right? So say the nuclear EMP goes off, and the first edge of your house that's exposed is the south side of your house, okay? And your electrical panel, the master electrical panel, is on the north side of the house, okay? And it has that EMP device, or this Siemens device that can conduct real fast. So what happens is as it's traveling across your house, the south side of the house, moving forward, as it's moving across, those wires that are exposed are gathering energy, okay? So the stuff plugged into your outlets and all the stuff, they're gathering energy. They're getting cooked. So by the time the device sees the rise in all the electrical energy that's come up, okay, but by the time it can start taking action, everything's cooked. Everything's cooked. It's traveled all the length of your house and fried everything along it before it could even do anything. So the only way those devices could even hope to stop a nuclear EMP system is your house has to be shielded. That you have to have only one way energy can get into the house. And that's the difficult problem.
And that's the expensive problem. Now, if you were Bill Gates, you could afford to do that.
Or the government.
I doubt it.
Yeah. So that's a quick interview. I hope that helps everyone if you're curious. That's just a quick overview on it.
The one of the things that Ben says in his presentation and stuff is that if you're not using a toaster, unplug it. If you're not using something, unplug it. That offers some protection from the stuff coming through the wiring of the house.
Unless, of course, you live in an apartment building like I do, and then you just SOL.
Yeah.
Because instead of just a house worth of wiring, I've got
multiple
worth of wiring.
Yeah. But if you unplug some stuff, you might give it that, you won't get what's coming through the actual hard wires into it because it'll be unplugged. You just have to worry about the transient stuff.
That's why TVs, laptops, anything electronic gets unplugged at night.
Yeah.
Hell, in the morning trying to reach under everything and plug it all back in. But,
I can imagine. I try to unplug a lot of stuff these days myself because, it's amazing how much stuff doesn't turn off when you turn it off anymore,
Yeah.
Like the little cell phone plug adapters. Even if you don't have a phone hooked to it, guess what? It's still drawing current.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we cheat chainsaws, log splitters, crack and fast wood.
That's the only thing I miss about living in the country immensely is chopping my own wood.
Yeah, in California, we used to unplug a lot of stuff, everything, but here, because the electrical rate is so much less than PG&E that, it's like a tenth the cost here, it seems like. And so it's like, it's not worth it to run around and plug everything.
Didn't you love how much lower the taxes were too?
And the
nice change.
And the gasoline too. Geez.
I was driving home today. I was like really happy. I saw gas at $2.11. I was like, wow, that's nice to see today.
Yeah. What I love is every Wednesday at Sam's Club in Idaho Falls, they knock like 50 to 75 cents off the regular price.
Really? That's a cool deal.
Just on Wednesdays.
Huh.
Because Wednesday's the slow day for them in their traffic through So get everybody there to guess. Oh, let's go inside and see what they got inside.
Yeah, that's a good plan. That is a good plan.
Oh, yes, Tibor. Wood kitchen stove. Yes, I want to get one. Unfortunately, like I think Anthony's wife has the same problem with any of the smoke from it. The particles just drives their sinuses nuts.
An alternative to that is a rocket mass heater. Produces mainly CO2 and water, and a lot of the particles and all that are burned up. Might work for them.
I've seen a couple of videos on rocket heaters for indoors be plumbed through, be hooked up to your stovepipes and stuff.
Yeah, I'm gonna try.
Anthony! Oh man, Anthony just knocked us all down.
Yeah, less than $2 is a good deal.
Yeah, the best rocket mass stoves I've seen are the ones they build in Russia, up in Siberia.
Oh yeah,
They take an entire wall and they make their heating duct an entire wall's worth, and they're nice. They look nice. They work efficiently.
Yeah, they've taken something and taken it to the next level. Something that people in here would go, "Why are you doing that? You just need to get on the grid."
Well, Nancy said she'd find people if she's seen them doing that. So,
man. Yeah, those where they basically are making a giant like heat bank because they put all of it in this massive stone masonry. It's neat because they actually only have to run them like 3 or 4 hours, and it radiates heat the rest of the day. It's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. The other thing too is talking about the stoves and stuff. I want to, my wife is actually looking at the pellet stoves because you don't open it up to into the inside of the house.
Oh yeah, it has an isolated combustion chamber, right?
Yeah, and it's basically if you just fill up the hopper on it, and it has an auger that on a timer and put so many pellets or whatever out in there, and they actually work on corn as well.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, so you go down to the local feed supply and you get several 50-pound grains of bags of corn grain and just run that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Okay, talking a lot about log splitters and chainsaw cutters over there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. My sister had a place in downtown Salt Lake that had a coal furnace on it. This was one of the old original houses. And it still had the original coal furnace in it down in the basement. And my brother stayed with her for a month or so one winter, and he'd go down there every morning, stoke it up. Well, first he'd dig out all the clinkers of coal out and stoke it up, and do the same thing at night.
Yeah, I was never around a lot of coal heated areas. I do remember the smell of places that were heated a lot with the oil, like heating oil places. That's got a unique smell to it.
Yeah. Well, folks, we're coming up on 2.5 hours, and we still got I still it's showing 19 watching.
Yep.
Well, hopefully it didn't bore everyone horribly to death tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of things. Stacking, that's what they call it when you put one bag inside of another. Mm. And so, stacking bags is one way. Now, one of the things I'm getting a couple of those 30-gallon civil defense ones. There's a place up the road here in Shelley that sells them, and so I'm going to pick up a couple of those, and I'll use one of them for my EMP stuff to put my Faraday cage. And I'll put my bags I have inside there, so I can put all my radio equipment I'm not using in there, my extra backup hard drives and stuff I can put in there. That way it's double protected.
Yeah, I need to make a bunch of videos talking about certain aspects of this. And actually, I'll go on a quite little tangent for everyone. I know a lot of people out there love to go off on the fear, doom and gloom, and all the other stuff because it's like the drama. They think prepping is this fun drama thing out there. But real prepping, real thing like that, I mean, it's research. It's putting your darn nose in a book and spending hours reading, researching stuff, then going out and practicing the skills, figuring it out, and getting it going.
Robert and Cindy, that's what I'm saying. And several other people are saying that too. Someone else actually did a test with it, and it failed on them. What we used to do to jam television signals, radio signals, and everything else, we take a Model A coil and stick a big radio antenna into it, and then hook it up to a 12-volt battery. Just for a couple seconds. It killed a lot of stuff.
And the nice thing is it's directional.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can actually hook it up to a directional ham radio antenna. And, so the guy that's using his CB that's jacked it up to 400 watts, and he's wiping out everybody's TV around the area, just aimed it at his house.
There's a better way to do that, and it'll fry his equipment. Take a needle and go right through his coax.
Yeah.
Next time he keys up, it's gone.
Yeah. But we didn't want to go on his property. We don't know what happened. I'm glad that was something called the statute of limitations. I was 15 at the time.
So what are you doing for a video tomorrow, Gil?
Tomorrow, pull this back up here. Tomorrow, I'm going to switch things up. I was going to do...
Better not steal my idea.
No, I was going to do love, how it affects your prepping, but I'm going to save that for Valentine's Day.
I should do a Valentine's Day video too. That's a good reminder.
But I was thinking of possibly doing either respirators and goggles, going a little bit more into that, or just talking about canning.
I'm going to finally, I've been editing a video all week, and I'm finally going to get it out tomorrow. But it's a little 3-part series talking about some, for all the electricians or people interested in electrical, we're going to cover house wiring and safety, and some of the stuff I've seen other people talk about on YouTube that will get you killed. We definitely, I want to point some stuff out that is going to kill people if you go down these roads these people are suggesting. So, and any electricians that are out there, if you want to come by and watch them, and you can say, Reed's full of it, or I'm at least telling the God's honest truth, I'd appreciate it.
Hey, Anthony, you got to go check out the early 60s and the 50s cars. They had double car curb feelers, and some of them even had a ground cable that dragged. Seriously, there were some an old Buick that had a little, and a Studebaker. They had these grounding car cables, so you wouldn't get shocked touching your car if there was a short somewhere.
Yeah, my live stream tomorrow night is going to be something totally different, off the wall. Science fiction. What have you learned prepping wise from watching your favorite sci-fi shows?
Oh, that's a good one.
Cool. And you're on tomorrow at 9:30 Eastern?
Yes.
Okay, and I'm on at I got to do the math here. I'm on at 5 o'clock Mountain, so it'll be 7 o'clock Eastern.
Did you see that Netflix movie called How It Ends? SOP. It was horrible, but did you see it?
What was that again? Which one?
How It Ends on Netflix. It was awful, but it was like a disaster movie. The world's coming apart, sort of thing. The trailer looked good. The movie stank, but
they took all the best parts for the trailer.
Yeah. However, there was one thing in there that I thought was a really good prepping one. Was there's a scene. So the guy gets out and he's getting duct tape and putting it over the taillights. And I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point, because even if there's no power, the fuses are pulled, they'll still reflect light. So if you don't want people seeing you, cover them up.
Yeah.
So
I would use black spray paint.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, I was like,
Silver is still reflective.
yeah. So
So anybody out there, for tomorrow night, give me your suggestions right now. Canning and dehydrating. Other than semi-auto, talking about bolt action, lever action, pump action weapons.
muzzle
Or
loaders. Muzzle loaders.
Or muzzle loaders, yeah. Or just between those two then. Other than semi-auto or canning and dehydrating, which one do you want me to do tomorrow? Anthony, which one do you want me to do? Canning, dehydrating, or other than semi-auto? Steve, which one do you want me to do? Robert, Tibor, guys, let me know.
Everybody just threw their hands up in the air and said, I don't know.
Too many choices. There's two choices. Ugh.
Yeah, but you're doing better than what Nancy did. She had one choice and she still blew that one.
I got one for dehydration.
I'm sorry. I'm so irritated. That
Oh,
what she did
is
is
bad.
All right, I got two dehydration, one guns.
what she did is actually a violation of Congress law, and I'll guarantee nothing happens to her. It's a violation of the law.
Anything
That
guns,
is defined.
guns.
Yeah, but
Anthony says no one watches food stuff. Trust me. I don't know, Anthony. If you hit the right groups here, like if you get the I have a bunch of the homesteaders that follow me. Shoot, they were talking like food like you would not believe on theirs one time.
Dog batch is a good suggestion for you, Gil.
You know what that reminds me of? The Hugh Jackman movie Van Helsing, where he has the
oh yeah,
the arrow.
hey, go check out York Slingshot channel. He's come a long ways. He's got some pretty unique stuff, especially now. He's got the instant Legolas version 11.
Which channel is that?
The Slingshot channel. York
Slingshot
Straw. It was through his inspiration that I made my own slingshot.
I'm sorry, I gotta laugh at this one. I'm sorry.
oh God. Take a look at Dog Patch's follow up to you. You know you'll get banned for that discussion.
30-round flashbang.
You build it with a lazy Susan.
Hey, no, not lazy Susan. A Ferris wheel. Each pan comes around.
No. It's a crank. It's a crank flash pan, right? You just crank it across it.
Oh, actually, what it is? Actually, it's a muzzle loading Gatling gun. 20 barrels. And then you have your flash pan cranking with it.
Yeah, there you go.
Takes 10 days to load all the barrels, but by George, you can sure take care of a lot of damage when it comes to time to use it.
Yep. Oh,
That's
man.
how to store food, save money.
Watch, some idiot's going to write a letter to the ATF for clarification on cranked muzzle loading Gatling guns.
Okay, tell someone how to prepare, how to store, grow and store food, save money in their life. 70 views. Talk about sweet and sour chicken, sweet and sour chicken. 22. Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, well, it is sad because my pastor, I put up the videos that my pastor puts out up in Michigan. So I re-edited him and put him here on YouTube. And right now, my fastest growing video is coronavirus from a biblical perspective. It is my fastest growing video.
Oh,
I didn't post that for me to get views. I posted that because, wanted to get that out there. But
Yeah.
it is actually growing by about 150 views a day.
It's funny. One of my videos that one of the videos that gets a lot of surprising views is I was talking about building fires and why never to use river rocks or rocks because they'll explode. For some reason, that gets a steady supply of views.
Yeah, and there was recently a YouTuber that put out a video that says, no, they don't. And I put on there, yes, they do. And my comment got deleted. It's like, really? I've done many experiments in the past, especially as a kid, using river rocks, making fires, and literally watch them go.
Yeah, I mean, it's in my video. You can watch them go. I got 2 explosions on there.
Well, if you want to know, it's
quick
backyard
question.
scientists.
How long were they out of the river?
Oh, here? It would have been several months.
And they still exploded.
Oh, yeah. The water gets deep into those rocks, and it'll hang on for a long time. And I'm in a desert.
Yeah. I'm thinking the computer is bugging. Check
What's
your
it want
wires.
now? What's it want? A water-cooled CPU? You got to feed that computer once in a while.
Yeah. Dashboard checking. Engine lights. Okay. All right, guys. I think it's time to wrap it up here.
Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah. See y'all later. Tomorrow night, 5 o'clock Mountain time is me, 7:30 Dave. So Eastern, that's 7 o'clock for me and 9:30 for Dave. Dave's doing what again?
Sci-fi, your favorite shows, and what have you learned for prepping wise from them?
And it looks like from all the responses, I'm going to be doing other than semi-auto. So we'll be taking a lot of information from you guys in the side chat. And I can have up to total of 6 people up here tomorrow. So guys, if you're welcome, make sure you get your webcam and microphone ready and you can come on up here.
I will probably watch. I'm not the biggest on guns.
Yeah.
I just like big guns.
There you go.
Yeah. Yeah. All righty, guys. Catch you later.
Bye.